This is the inside of the timing cover on, so if you're sitting on the bike, it's on the right hand side of your Harley-Davidson XLH. And all these things, they're very steampunk. These four are for the cams. That's for the exhaust cam, it's got 4 cams, individual. Exhaust cam for the rear cylinder, inlet cam for the rear cylinder, inlet cam for the front cylinder, exhaust cam for the front cylinder. This one here is the gear that drives them all. One gear to drive, sorry. And it's very important to get this one in the right way round. Otherwise, no matter how well these are lined up, this is the one to get in right first of all. I got mine 180 degrees at one point. Second rebuild I ever did, 180 degrees. And it took me ages to work out why it was blowing out of the carburetor holes and sucking through the exhaust holes. And that was why. It took me an embarrassingly long time to work out that was what I'd done wrong. So yeah, well, those gears, they do go in all kinds of ways, so watch out for that one. This one here, all the gears run off each other more or less. They're all linked together. And this is a special one that just whizzes around, and the only reason that exists is to drive the generator, which kind of fits on there. It's there. Hang on. I shall use this cut to represent there's a generator. Okay. The reason I got this apart at the moment is because I'm spraying a fine mist of oil out the front of the crankcases. Not this bit, but further along the join between the two actual crankcases. That sort of thing. It's forcing its way out. And there's a lip on there and tons of Hylamar and everything. So it's clearly building up some pressure. Pressure in the crankcases, when you take this off, you'll see big holes on the inside that lead through to, you can see the crank through these big holes. So pressure is relieved into here, and it gets out of there and out of there. Earlier Ironheads do have a complicated timed breather, which mine does not have. This is a straight hole. A tube goes into this. This tube then goes on absolutely all of them. It always goes to the back of the oil tank. It breathes to the back of the oil tank. So when you take the tube off and you blow through it, because you think you might have a blockage, it's blocked and you go, bloody hell, brilliant. But the minute you take the oil cap off, you can blow through it perfectly well. It's not blocked, which is interesting. So it's breathing to something that isn't vented, something that it can't breathe to. I don't get this at all. I'm looking into this. I think there's a better way of doing this. This breather at the front, which is the main one that most people are aware of, there's 2 on the engine. There's one on the gearbox, but it's not connected to this system in any way. The gearbox and the primary are together completely separate from the engine in the Ironhead. It's not a true unit construction like a Honda. It's a semi-unit. Clutch and gearbox are joined. Engine and timing in it, no, this is a completely separate system. What this does have is effing weird. If you look down, try and get it so the camera can see it. Right, there's the hole where the breather attachment goes in. It's like a bigger version of that. Okay, that's where that goes. That's where your rotating breather goes, I think. Ooh, that's where your rotating breather goes, I think, in other Ironheads, but on this it runs the tachometer, and on early ones it runs the distributor. So useful little thing, that. Back to the breather. There's the breather. This is perfectly clear, but through the breather hole, let me torch. Yeah, I can see, I don't know if you can see, the side of a bolt, right? And there's this thing. It's just a thing. It's weird. And it clearly comes out, because otherwise how did anybody do that bloody bolt up that we've just seen? And it seems to be completely superfluous. But when I looked it up on my parts microfiche thing, it said it's a reed. And yeah, you can get the hook down there, and there's a metal reed like you'd get in a wind instrument. And again, it's not blocked. But it is strange, isn't it? I looked up the part number of this assembly, the Reed assembly, and it ends in 79, so it's not on earlier Ironheads at all. Harley stuff, there's generally 5 numbers, then a dash, and then a year, sometimes with A or B after it. But that's those two numbers at the end are always the year. 79, so it's definitely not on anything before that. Yeah, so at the moment, at the time of reporting, my situation is that I can't use the bike. I've got a fine oil mist pumping out of the front of the crankcases, and I can't work out what's going on. Why it's not venting, why it's not breathing. Everything seems fine. I got a few ideas, but if you've got any, by all means, leave them in the comments. Cheerio, bye.